Well, first of all, household debt is up to $15.99 trillion. Not quite 16, right? But the good news there is that people actually are paying it back, as much debt as we have. Now, corporate debt's another issue which we could also talk about. Center for Freedom and Prosperity's Dan Mitchell joins us now. On the household side, Dan, let's start there. What would you say about that number? We had a guest earlier which is saying, you know, the consumer and American consumers in pretty good shape, able to pay back a lot of what they borrow, not in, you know, such dire straits. But what do you make of that number, almost 16 trillion?
It sounds like a huge number, and it is a huge number, but here are two ratios that everyone needs to keep in mind. Don't just look at household debt, also look at household assets. And household assets have been increasing at the same time debt's increasing, so theoretically there's not a problem. The other ratio is what is household income versus household debt servicing costs. So you might have a lot of interest on the debt, the money that you owe, but if you have enough income coming in, that's fine. So right now, with the economy strong, these numbers, these ratios are okay. But here's the thing we always have to worry about. What if there's, say, a bubble? What if we go into a recession?
Right.
What if our asset values fall? What if our household income falls? So all of a sudden that interest expense becomes big. Those are the things we have to be concerned about.
Yeah, we keep comparing or talking about NASDAQ 9,000 to the NASDAQ 5,000 days, or saying that NASDAQ is setting these records not seen since the 97 or 98. Back then we didn't know that there were, or not a lot of people knew that the bubbles that were forming. Or you could say the same about 2006 until everything went haywire in 2008. Is there anything out there that does worry you? I mean, I brought up corporate debt as an example earlier, that some people are starting to be concerned about that.
There are two things that I personally am concerned about. Number one is sort of cyclical. All these artificially low interest rates from the Federal Reserve, other central banks around the world,
right,
pushing too much liquidity into the system. That concerns me, that's encouraged people to take on too much debt. The second thing is more structural, long run. Thanks to federal government policies, we subsidize borrowing and we penalize savings. And in the long run, that's just, you know, we want those decisions to be made organically, undergirding genuine economic needs in the economy. We don't want Uncle Sam with a finger on the scale encouraging us to borrow too much and punishing us if we save.
Yeah, I don't see anything on the horizon that would necessarily change that dynamic, right? But it sounds like from what the way you look at things, at least short term, we are okay. I mean, that the economy is strong, the consumer is strong, that people are in a pretty good spot. It's just over time, these concerns, obviously, I mean, it's just a matter of when, and we don't know when that when will be, right?
Well, there's a little bit of good news.
Okay.
Trump's tax reform in 2017 slightly reduced the subsidy for borrowing by companies. So hopefully in the future there won't be as much corporate debt as there otherwise would be. But beyond that, yes, the economy right now is strong. The problem is this, say, 1984, where we have several years of good, strong growth, or is it 2007 when we're on the cusp of a bubble bursting or something like that? And frankly, economists like me, we're lousy forecasters. If I knew the answer to that,
I'd
be rich.